Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Lionsgate Podcast with Sahdi and Omni. I'm Omni.
And I'm Sahdi.
And today is our season finale of season 1, and we're going to be talking all about healing. Now, usually we do questions of the week, but in honor of our season finale, Sahdi's going to be sharing a very personal story that involves trauma, healing, and a miracle. I'm actually really honored she's going to be sharing this with us. But next season, we'll be continuing the questions and write-in stories. So if you have any of those, go ahead and hit us up on our email. That's sahdiandomni@gmail.com, SACREDFLAME.LOVE We also have a Facebook page for our podcast called Lionsgate Podcast with Sahdi and Omni. And then if we have any references on here or any ingredients or whatnot that we talk about that we want to list, we'll probably do a TikTok about it. So hit us up on there. It's under Sahdi and Omni. After Sahdi shares her story with us, we will be talking about tools to raise your vibration and things she has done and researched, and some things I have used on my end: candles, crystals, plants, and herbs. Before Sahdi gets started with her story, I do want to give a trigger warning for TBI, which is traumatic brain injury. This story involves a child, which can be obviously very triggering to some people, and it involves some graphic wording. So now that we got that out of the way, Sahdi, this is about your grandbaby, right?
Right.
Okay, so can you walk me through the day?
Yes. So the day started off like any normal day. My daughter had just recently gotten a new apartment with her best friend at the time. And even though we didn't live together anymore, she still called me 3 or 4 times a day. So I woke up from a phone call from her. She was giving the kids a bath, and I could hear them playing in the background and running around the house and having fun. And she said she was about to take them to the pool. Mm-hmm. And she had this weird little bump on her arm. And so I told her, take a picture of it and send it to me. Right. Yeah. And she told me she loved me, and she hung up the phone.
You guys are extremely close.
Right. Yeah. We really are. And so on my end of it, I just kept looking at my phone like every few minutes, like, where is this picture? And about 10-15 minutes went by, and I got a call from a private number. And I don't usually answer private numbers, but something inside of me just told me to, and I answered it on the first ring. And it was an officer asking me if I was Sophia's grandmother. And I told him yes. And he was like, I need you to get to her house right now, as fast as you can. And I know officers aren't really supposed to say that, because it did throw me into a panic. And he said, and I said, what happened? He said, Sophia had an accident. She's being taken to the hospital right now, but I need you to get here because Cairo's here. And he couldn't go with his mother.
Okay, so Sophia is what age at this time?
Sophia was 3 years old.
Okay.
And Cairo's just a year older. He was 4.
That's her brother.
Her brother.
Just to be clear for people listening.
My grandchildren.
Yeah, your baby.
So my babies. And so I immediately was just like, is she okay? And he's like, ma'am, I just need you to get here. Mm-hmm. So of course I was hysterical. You know, I was just wearing a t-shirt and underwear, no shoes. It was July 1st. It was hot outside. And I ran out of the house screaming that Sophia was hurt to my husband. And it was about a 7-minute drive to their house, and I made it there in probably 2 minutes. I mean, I was taking corners at 75 miles an hour and, you know, just like crying, and I was hysterical. Mm-hmm. And when I got there, they had blocked off the entire road, and there was a life flight helicopter flying above me. And there was probably, I don't know, 40, 50 police officers and first responders and fire trucks and ambulance just everywhere. And they had the entire street blocked off. So I couldn't get through to get to the apartment. So I just put my car in park in the middle of the road, and I started running. And it was like in a movie, you know, where they're like, no, ma'am, you can't come down here. And I'm like, oh, I'm her grandma, you know. And so they let me through. And I got there, and I grabbed Cairo immediately, and I asked the first officer that I saw, I was like, is she okay? And he's like, I have no idea if she's okay or not. They're doing the best they can. She's en route to the hospital now. And I was like, can you tell me anything? And he's like, she was non-responsive at the scene. And I was like, what does that mean? Yeah. I was like, did she die? And he's like, she was non-responsive at the scene. So immediately my mind went to the worst, that she died.
Yeah.
She had fallen out of the second story window.
Why wouldn't it go there?
Right. And so, so in the meantime, we can backtrack a little bit to what actually happened in between me talking to her and the accident happening. Her and her best friend, who also had a 4-year-old daughter, just moved into a new townhouse together. And the living room was downstairs, and then upstairs with both of their bedrooms and a bathroom. And the kids would all play and run into each other's rooms, and it was a very safe place for the kids to be. Right. It was baby proof, and we had gone and checked the windows and made sure that the air conditioner, 2 people pushed on it to make sure that there was no way the air conditioner could fall out and cause any accidents. So the windows and them being on top floor was an issue when they moved in there, and we took safety precautions. What we didn't know was that her roommate, it was a hot day, and she decided to pull her bed in front of the window, which it wasn't usually in front of the window, and open the window, put the fan in it, and get a little sun before she went to work. So then I guess she realized that she was late for work, threw on her clothes, and ran out of the house, just shut her bedroom door. And my daughter didn't know this at the time. So she was getting the kids' bathing suits together. When Sophia fell, she fell naked because she had just gotten out of the bath. So it happened within a blink of an eye.
Was she jumping on the bed?
Both the kids were jumping on the bed.
Yeah.
And she could hear them in there playing, and which was a normal thing. It was an everyday thing. They always did that. She did not know that the window was open or the bed had been moved in front of the door.
Right.
And Cairo came running in. He's like, "Mommy, Sophia fell." And her heart just dropped, and she instantly knew that it was from the window. So she grabbed her phone and ran down the stairs and started giving her CPR. While she was on the phone with 911. And she told me that it took forever for 911 to answer. And she was just like crying and screaming for anybody to help her, and nobody came outside. So it was just her and my grandson there dealing with this for quite a few minutes before.
That's scary for him too.
Right. Well, he had made a comment a few days later that Mommy cried so hard that God heard her. Or cried so loud that God heard her.
Oh, how heartbreaking.
Pretty traumatic. He saw her fall.
Yeah.
And so finally, my daughter just kept giving CPR until the paramedics got there, and then they took over. So at that point, I made it to the hospital, and I walked in, and I saw Sophia completely naked, laying on a cold slab with wires and needles and tubes all over her body, and she looked lifeless. They told me that she was in a coma, and she wasn't expected to make it over the next 24 hours. And me being a mom, like the first thing I wanted to do was cover her up and pick her up and hold her and wrap a blanket around her and give her comfort. And I wasn't allowed to do that because when you have a serious brain injury, you can't get hot. You have to stay cold because a temperature could kill you. A seizure could kill you. Anything, pretty much your blood pressure even going up a little bit could kill you. Yeah. So we were there for probably about 5 hours before the doctors pulled us all in a room. The whole family at that point was at the hospital. And they told us that her skull broke into 4 pieces from the middle of her forehead into the back of her skull. And then it broke from temple to temple. So it was in 4 separate pieces. And then she also, they said that her spinal cord had gone through her brainstem, meaning that she would be completely paralyzed from the neck down, even if she survived. So of course, listening to all of that, and the doctor was clear that it was a very slim chance that she would make it through the night. The first 48 hours are the most critical, but even if she did make it through that, she'd never walk again. She was on a breathing machine. She would maybe never breathe on her own again. And she'd probably never talk again because she had such intense brain damage and swelling and bleeding on her brain. So they were just trying to keep her alive. I remember standing up in front of my family and asking if she's never going to be able to walk or talk or breathe or laugh or dance or, be Sophia. Like, why are we doing this to her? Why are we torturing her and making her suffer? And the doctor said something that stuck with me to this day. He was like, because there's still hope. It's a very minimal amount, but there's still hope, and we're not going to give up on her yet. So don't give up on her. And I was like, okay. And I held on to that the entire time.
Yeah. That's a doctor that's doing it for the right reasons.
And it was really touch and go. It wasn't taking it hour to hour. It was taking it second to second with her. And there was quite a few times within this 5-day period that we thought we were going to lose her. And I won't get into the details of that, but it was pretty traumatic.
How did your daughter react in this time? Because I can only imagine. I know being a mother myself, and I just want to put it out there. This could happen to anybody. And if you haven't had any accident that's like a close call as a parent, you are very lucky. Quick interlude. My youngest biological daughter, when she was a newborn, she was 2 weeks old, and I just started picking shifts back up at work. And she ended up her dad called me and was like, she's puking and she's choking on her puke. It's really weird. And I took her into the hospital, and I'm like, look, this is my third kid. I'm not new. I'm not a hover parent. And they didn't even do a heel stick, which was protocol. And the doctor's like, just change her nipple on her bottle, and walked out. And I took her 45 minutes to the next county over, and they did a heel stick on her, and her sodium was so far off the charts. They said if I had waited any longer, she would have died. They did a lumbar puncture on a 2-week-old, and I was so numb I couldn't cry. And I think that it got the nurses thinking that because I couldn't cry, that maybe I had postpartum and had done something to her. But I was just numb, and I just remember it was like a whole week she was in the ICU, and she ended up having like seizures and stuff. And I finally broke down, and then they met my other 2 kids. But the feeling that the nurses, and I get it, I can understand. They didn't know what was going on at the time. I ended up figuring out that my son had dumped popcorn salt in her formula because he thought he was helping cook, because I was trying to involve him, because I had 3 kids 3 years in a row. And when you're a mom, especially a mom at multiples, like anything like that can happen. So but the feelings that those nurses put me through, on top of the trauma of feeling helpless and having your child go through possibly dying right in front of you, there is no other feeling of torture than that, in my opinion. And so I can only imagine what your daughter went through, and my heart goes out to her 1,000 times over, because I know she's a great mother. I know she lives for her babies. And so anyway, sorry, not to rant and not to step on your story, because it is a powerful one, but I think that's important for all the listeners to really know and to process.
During that time, my daughter never left Sophia's side. Mm-hmm. There was a cot in the room, and we would ask her to go lay down and just stretch her back for a minute. Mm-hmm. And she refused. She just sat, and everybody knows hospital chairs are uncomfortable as fuck. She didn't get up from that chair. She refused water. She refused food. She didn't eat for 5 days. She would not leave Sophia's side. And what she didn't know is there was a lot of people, because it had already gone viral. It was all over the news and all over the internet and stuff like that. And people were saying some really hurtful things because they didn't know the whole story or what happened. And, you hear a 3-year-old falling out of a window, and the first thing you think is, where were the parents?
Right.
Well, she was getting her bathing suit.
Yeah. It's a second. It takes a second.
Right. And so they finally gave her feeding tube, because my daughter said that she wouldn't drink or eat until her daughter could drink or eat. And the nurses were really concerned about her. They almost admitted her. And they finally had to tell her, like, if you don't eat or drink something, we're going to take you away from Sophia downstairs and we're going to admit you separately. So they finally were able to give Sophia a feeding tube, and Deja took her first bite of food on that day. There was even a death threat to her. I guess
You've got to be kidding me.
Somebody actually made it into the hospital and almost made it through the ICU doors dressed as a preacher. And he was not a preacher. He had saw the story on the news, and he was crazy. And, people would say things like, maybe she should be thrown out of a window and, things like that. And he almost got through because we did have ministers and priests, and, we were pretty much in the mindset of like any positive vibes, any prayers, anything that you can do to help her. Like, I welcome that. And so he almost made it through, but he had all intent of harming her.
What stopped? How did he get caught?
The security caught him.
Because he didn't recognize him?
He didn't recognize him. I'm not sure if they had seen him before or what it was, but they pulled me in private, and we didn't even let her know right away that happened. She was already,
Yeah. She's being tortured.
So she was not in the mindset at all to hear anything like that. So we ended up having to stop all contact to anybody coming in. So it was only allowed to be me or really close family to come in. We had to stop all.
That's sad that we live in a
society. It was terrifying. It was like my granddaughter was dying and, just struggling for her life. And my daughter I was watching my daughter lose a part of herself. And then somebody was trying to hurt her.
Yeah. Over what?
Right.
Something they didn't understand.
So I wasn't on my phone very often, but I did get on Facebook, and I made a post about Sophia and, just keeping family and friends that, updated on what her situation was. And every day it was pretty much the same thing. She wasn't getting any better. And I can't remember how it came about, but somebody told me about this healer, and he's a Blu-ray light worker healer, and that he had helped people come out of comas before. And she gave me his name and asked me to send him a message on Facebook. And I was thinking to myself at first, I'm like, okay, like this healer is going to, she's in critical condition.
Right.
Like, she's never going to walk or talk or breathe on her own again. I don't know what this healer can do for her, but I'm going to reach out anyway. Like, something inside me was just like, reach out to him. Yeah. His name is Mujin Choi. It's spelled MUJINCHOI. I reached out to him, sent him a picture of her, and just told him a little bit what was going on with her. And within 45 minutes, he called me and instantly got back to me. And he made me feel at peace, and he made me feel calm. And he told me what to do. So I put the phone up to her ear, and he started doing therapy with her, healing with her over the phone.
So was he like saying words or like affirmations, or?
Couldn't really hear anything. I could hear breathing. I could hear, it wasn't affirmations or tone. There was no words to it at all. I could just hear like breathing and different sounds that he was making. But mostly I had the phone to her ear because it was like for her to hear. He called me that night, and we did this therapy 3 times a day. And on the second day, when he was going over her, he said, okay, I'm working on her spine now. I'm working on her brain. I'm working on her chest. And I could see, and she was in a complete coma, like paralyzed coma. And I could see when he would say, I'm working on her chest, I could see her skin start to move, and it almost looked like a twitch underneath her skin. And he would say, I'm working on her arm, and I could see like a little twitch in her arm. And I wasn't the only one seeing it. My daughter was seeing it, and my husband was seeing it. And we were just like, what in the fuck is going on? Like, her body shouldn't be able to move like that because she was completely still, like completely lifeless.
Right. And she was supposed to be paralyzed from the neck down, right?
Yeah. They told us from the initial MRI when she went in that the spinal cord punctured the brainstem, and there's no coming back from that.
Right.
At that point. And so he, every single day, 3 times a day, he would call and do these healing therapies with her. And on the third day, so this was probably 8 days into Sophia being in the hospital, I finally convinced my daughter to go home with Cairo, that she has another child and he needs his mom. Yeah. And I was the one that was taking care of him during that time. I would take him to the hospital first thing in the morning. We would spend the whole day there, and I would take him home at night, and we'd sleep and then do the same thing over and over. And I was like, I promise I won't lay down. I'll hold her hand. I won't move. Just take Cairo home and go cuddle with him tonight. He needs his mom.
Yeah.
And so reluctantly, she did. And that was probably one of the second worst nights in my life. The first night was her having the accident, and the second time was that night, like on the 8th night. She went home, and around 1 o'clock in the morning, Sophia's vitals started spiking. Her blood pressure was going up and down, just like crazy. Her body was starting to like tremble, and like it almost looked like shock waves going like all over her body, twitches in her face. And the doctors could not figure out what was wrong with her. They thought she might be in pain, so they were giving her the most pain medicine they could possibly give her. They were giving her medicine for her blood pressure. And one of the nurses told me, I think you need to call your daughter, because this is probably the end for her. And I was like, God damn it, I sent my daughter home, and the one night she leaves her side, she's going to die. Yeah. And I wanted to make that phone call, but then I was like, I don't want to make the phone call. Like, I had every faith in the world that she was going to pull through it. Right. But it was really scary for me. And I remember just like crying and praying and just begging Sophia, please, baby, like stay with grandma. Don't leave us yet. And this went on for hours. Finally, everything calmed down, and she went under control, and they were like, we don't know what happened. It was just sometime when they're in a coma, head injuries, like, we don't know. And so I woke up in the morning. I didn't even go to sleep. I was like half asleep in the chair, and I got a phone call from Mujin. And he was like, good morning. How was last night? How was Sophia? And I started crying. I was like, it was the worst night ever. Like, I thought she was going to die. And he's like, okay, well, explain to me what happened. And I did. And he goes, no, it was a good thing. He's like, last night, me and other light workers from around the world came together, and we were giving her healing energy around that same time. I have goosebumps. And he's like, and the doctors didn't know what was wrong. And I was like, no. He's like, of course they didn't know what was wrong. How could they know that she's being sent healing from light workers, including myself, like all over. We all came together to help Sophia.
How many?
I don't even know.
Oh my God.
He said all over different parts of the world. That's so amazing. I don't know how many of his light worker friends that he called in to help with that. Right. So that was a relief. And he's like, no, she's going to be doing better. Oh. And I was thinking to myself, okay, all right, we'll see if she's going to be doing better. My daughter got to the hospital a few hours later, and I was every day I would rub Sophia's legs and her feet and give her like little massages, and because she'd just been laying in that bed. And I was like, okay, and I always talked to her like she could hear me. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, Sophia, give me your foot, baby. And I saw her toe twitch on the foot that I was about to massage. And I was like, and I looked at our mom, and I was like, look, she just moved. And so she was holding her hand. She's like, Sophia, close mommy's hand. Like, I'm right here. And she felt like a little tiny pulse on her hand. And she was like, Mom, oh my God, she's doing it. She can hear us, like she's listening to commands. And of course the nurse didn't believe it. She's like, that's muscle memory. That's not really happening because she's paralyzed. And when the neurologist came into the room, I was like, I have to show you this. She's responding to what we're asking her to do. And at this point, she's still on a breathing machine. She can't even breathe on her own. Right. And she came in, and she couldn't believe it either at first until she witnessed it. And she was just shocked. She was like, I do not know how this is possible. But this is a miracle.
Did you tell her about the light workers?
I did. I told her that I had light workers working, that light workers were working on her last night, and maybe that was part of it. And she kind of smiled about that. Right. But there was a look in her eye of maybe, like, it was the hospital. We had her at the best hospital that we could possibly have her in Oregon, and a team of amazing doctors that were working on her every second, 24 hours a day. And then we had Mujin working on her 3 times a day as well. And so I think it was like a combination of all of it and all the prayers. And I mean, we had people all over the world praying for Sophia. Her little picture and her story went viral. So yeah, I still have people that hit me up and they're like, how is Sophia doing? So yeah, but he continued to work with her every single day. And within days of that night, of that healing, Sophia was able to get taken off of the breathing machine and breathe on her own. And it was crazy too, because the doctors were all ready to give her a tracheotomy, because they're like, if we pull this out, we can't put it back in. So if we pull the tube out and she can't breathe on her own, she's going to have a tracheotomy, and that's there for life. Yeah. And so we were prepared for that. They took the tube out. She was breathing perfectly fine on her own. And everybody's just like in amazement of this little girl, of how well she's doing. That the day they took the tube out, my daughter was able to hold her for the first time in like 10, 12 days. And she got to cuddle up in the chair with her and just hold her and rock her. So it was a beautiful, moment. And then the next day she was allowed to go out in a little wagon out in the sun and feel sun on her face for the first time. And even though she couldn't open her eyes and she couldn't move very much.
Why couldn't she open her eyes?
Well, her eyes, we didn't know at the time, because we're all waiting on her. When you're in a coma, the first thing you think of is, we want you to open your eyes. That was the last thing that Sophia did, because her eyelids were paralyzed. So she couldn't open her eyes, but she was able to hear us and listen to us and move her legs and arms and stuff like that.
So she was awake, but she just couldn't open her eyes.
Was at this point awake, but we didn't realize how awake she really was, because she couldn't open her eyes. And then, so anyway, she went outside and she was able to feel the sun on her face. And my daughter handed her a ball, like a little plastic ball. And she held it in her hands. And, my daughter took her hands over the ball and held it. And she threw the ball. She threw the ball. This is not even 2 weeks after being in a coma. She's throwing a ball outside. Right. And then within hours of her throwing the ball, my daughter just kept doing it over and over. And we have video of it, her just getting the ball and throwing it. And then later that day, she was clapping her hands. And we'd say, yay, Sophia. And she'd clap her hands and stuff like that. And she was still really bruised up. She had bruises on her face and around her head for probably 7-8 months. Oh my God. But she was able to be moved out of the ICU and back downstairs, and she was able to take a bath. And they did an MRI on her, and they were like, we can't really explain. Maybe it was the swelling around her spinal cord that appeared that her spinal cord had punctured her brainstem, but it's intact. And so there's a possibility that they were wrong. Yeah. There's also a possibility that she was healed. Yeah. And either way, I'm just so thankful that that wasn't the case. Right. They also said that she would probably never just be the same Sophia. And of course she has. She's had to get a few eye surgeries, and she's a little off balance sometimes and stuff like that. But she is 8 years old right now, and she is just amazing, the most beautiful person. She has lots of friends. She does well in school. It was a lot to go through, because then she got to come home and she had to relearn how to use the bathroom and relearn how to walk and talk. She was actually walking before she could open her eyes. So she had her, the first word that she said was mama. Her and my daughter were laying in bed together on her second day home from the hospital. And she just said, mama. It was her first word. Her words were very slow at first. She couldn't talk really fast, but she picked it up right away.
That's amazing.
And then she went to rehab. And she ended up staying in rehab for quite a while.
Have you talked to Mujin Simpson?
Yeah, he continued to work with her the entire time that she was in treatment. Every day he would call and they would do a therapy session. I just talked to him the other day and he's like, how are her eyes doing? Let's work on her eyes, because it's still a little bit of a problem. She can't look down. Oh, okay. So if her head is straight, her eyes won't look down. Okay. And it's part of being paralyzed.
So just her eyes are paralyzed?
Yeah. It's like her eyelids So that's pretty much the only thing that's wrong with her.
Oh
And she's so loving and just she's an empath for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She can feel the energy of people around her.
I know from doing my own research with Blu-ray starseeds that they say when they use that blue energy to heal, that it'll be with you forever, right?
Yeah, that's what he has said, that they'll always be with Sophia.
Yeah. And so it makes sense she'd be in bed.
Crazy, because I didn't even really know that he was a blue-ray healer or anything like that. When he was doing this therapy, I knew he was a healer. I didn't know what type. And there was one night when I was meditating, and I saw it was about Sophia, because there's a lot of, healing that goes through with a traumatic incident like this. But I saw these blue beams of light just coming at me, like in rows, like hundreds of them. Mm-hmm. And they were all protecting Sophia.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's so, I want to say lucky. I mean, she is lucky, but I think blessed is a better term, more fitting, I guess. First, I want to say thank you for sharing that story, because I think it takes a lot of courage, for one, because I think, sharing something like this is pretty vulnerable, but it also helps other people get through their trauma and start their healing process. Because I know we're going to talk about like some things you did moving forward. We were talking in one of the first episodes about how I saw spirits out of the corner of my eyes. They were always blue, and you're like, well, maybe you're a Blu-ray starseed or something like that. And I was like, what is that? I'm going to look them up. And I wanted to start out because I've heard of the term starseeds before, but I've never really looked too far into them. So I wanted to start with the definition. I went to Urban Dictionary just because there's like a ton of definitions on there. I just kind of picked two. So starseed is a person who is spiritually aware, having a strong connection to the divine creator. Starseeds are said to be old souls that are sent back to Earth to transform the world into the heaven on Earth predicted after the end of times. Such persons may display spiritual gifts of clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, being able to read minds, other emotions, and see future events. That one seemed interesting to me, but that didn't really resonate as much as this next one, and what I've kind of understood to be starseeds anyways. This one says, a person who, while human in appearance, is actually a human ET hybrid who has a mission on Earth to help raise the vibration of the planet by raising human consciousness. There are starseeds within origins from many star systems such as Sirius, Orion, which is my son's name, Vega, etc. Most starseeds have psychic and or healing gifts. So that's what I've always understood, is that not necessarily that they're they are hybrids, not that they're just like impersonating humans, but that they were born into the human. We talk about abductions and UFOs, or I don't know. I think that stuff is interesting since I was little. But what's the purpose of all these appearances of women becoming pregnant and stuff? If it's a starseed, you were seeded here, you're born, and then it becomes generational a lot of times. That resonated with me more. I know there's a lot of different ones. It's funny because my son's name is Orion. So there's one that's called Orion, which is knowledge seekers, which fits him to a T. Andromedan, which I've heard of that one before. They're like childlike freedom, not like childish, they're innocent. They're just like, I don't know, like puppy dogs. I just want to be free. And they're like, they lift the energy of the room. Right. I'm going to butcher this. Arcturian, they are born leaders. Sirius, which is that's where the Blu-ray beings are from. And their purpose is to elevate the human race through healing, is what it said online. So, and I did you talk to him about the reason why he does healings and stuff?
I haven't really gotten into detail with him.
With Mujin?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the other one? Pleiadians. And I've heard of this one. They're also known as the Seven Sisters. And I really want to do more research, and maybe we'll circle back to an episode on starseeds, because there's 25 different ones. So what I would do is go through and see what resonates with you. There's a lot of information out there.
Yeah. I
was looking through the Blu-ray beings because Sahdi said, well, maybe you're a starseed from the Blu-ray beings. And there's a lot of stuff that resonates with me. They like water. I'm a big water person. So I thought that was pretty interesting. but they really heal through sound and through vibrations. And we've talked about that before in the just me and you, not on any episode, I don't think, but like about sound healing.
Mm-hmm. And so I have a lot of experience with that because I use frequency and vibration a lot in my healing techniques. Mm-hmm. One of the ones that I really like to do are sound baths. And so if you don't know what a sound bath is, it is it's basically a bath for your energy. It's like placing harmonic vibration and frequency on your physical body and the energy field around the body to cleanse it. Mm-hmm. Fear and anxiety and low vibrational energies. And it's kind of like you give your energy a bath.
Right. I'm super sensitive to, that's another thing of Blu-ray Starseed, not to get back off, but is sounds like sounds are, and I'm really sensitive to sounds. And we were talking about going to a sound bath and I was like, what is that?
Okay. So in my experience, you go to a big like auditorium or a big room and you bring like a blanket and a pillow or a yoga mat or something like that. And there's people there that have all different kinds of instruments like crystal singing bowls, tuning forks, gongs, drums. Sometimes you'll go to one and they'll have like a didgeridoo as well.
I love that.
Like chimes and harps and pan flutes and bells. And it just depends on which one you go to. But the main thing that they always have is the crystal singing bowls.
Yes,
and usually you go through a little meditation with other people in the room. And it's being guided by a few people. And then you lay down and you get comfortable and close your eyes. And they come by and they just bathe you in all these beautiful frequencies and tones. And it usually runs about an hour. And then you gently come out of it. My husband actually said that he had a out-of-body experience during one before he physically felt his energy leave his body and be cleansed and then come back, which is something that he doesn't usually tap into.
Yeah, I'm real sensitive to sound, and for some reason, the singing bowls always calm me. I always talk about my ADHD. They always center my brain. I know one time my partner was, he has some back problems. I had him lay down and I put the singing bowl healing on YouTube, and I just started focusing on healing him and rubbing him down. And like, I've given him back massages before, but this was different. And when he was done, he was like, how did you know where I was hurting? And I was like, I was just focusing
you
on
were tapped
healing
in.
you. Yeah, I was so, and I felt
in the healing frequency.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is healing frequencies can also like help you with chronic pain and pain as well as emotional pain. So it's good for both.
Yeah.
And I heard that like a cat's purr.
Oh, yeah.
Set at a frequency that can heal bones.
See, I didn't know that. I just know like I always say like my black cat is my dream travel kitty, and that like helps me travel through the dream world. And then my gray kitty, if you look at her TikTok, he's on one of them now. I was in the middle of doing a TikTok and I was like, here he is. Big reveal that he's a empath because he doesn't like people picking up too much, but I really think that he purrs and he gets on you when you need him. Like, I think it's too many emotions. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, I have a cat like that too. It's just like a comfort kitty.
Yeah.
But yeah, a cat's purr is anywhere between 25 and 150 hertz. And that's the same frequency that's been proven by science that it heals bones and joints and tendons and wounds even.
It's crazy. I just knew like they were emotionally healing. I didn't know they were actually physically healing.
Yeah.
Dude, and cats can smell terminal illness too.
But like the good thing about going to like sound baths is if you're new to the community and you don't have a lot of spiritual friends, it is a great place to meet like-minded people because everybody's there for healing. Everybody's in the spiritual vibration. Oh, yeah. And so, a lot of people are just getting into spirituality and their old friends just aren't resonating with them anymore. So it's a really good place. And these people are super open and really nice.
Yeah.
Come a few minutes early and socialize and leave a little bit late. If you're looking to meet friends in the community, that's a great place to start.
I never even thought about that. Yeah. Or if you're not comfortable with talking to people, I think you could just go there and do your thing and be in that energy. I am a social butterfly, so I of course would want to talk and to to everybody.
And everybody is really respectful too.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to bombard you with that. And there's a lot of places you can go to that do private sound bath healings as well. So they'll come to your house or you go to them and they'll do a private healing for you. That might get a little pricey though.
Yeah, these are the big ones with people are like, they want donations.
Usually donations anywhere between like $10 and $40.
Yeah.
Usually,
Which
in my
is
experience.
Not bad for what they're offering. That's amazing.
And I'm sure if you didn't have a lot of money and you're like, hey, I'll help clean up after I only have $20 or something, like,
right.
You know, these are very open-minded, positive people.
Yeah. They're there for the healing and to help. Okay, so me and Sahdi made a pact that in between season 1 and season 2, we're going to take a little time off and recharge, and we're going to do a sound bath together. And then what else are we doing? The
sensory deprivation.
I was supposed to say deprivation thing. That's right, though.
Yeah, it is.
I always think of sleep deprivation because I did a speech on that in college. Honestly, I just said sleep deprivation like 24 times and got a B.
Sensory.
Yes.
So you're in a bath of water that's set at your body temperature. So you lose sight of what your body is. Like you lose sight of your body or the feelings of your body.
Yeah.
And then you can't see. So you lose your sight, and you can't hear. So you lose your hearing. And so it deprives you of your senses. It throws you instantly into meditation. You're going to love it.
I can't wait. Especially since water's a conduit for everybody, but for me, I've really come to really love that. So I'm excited about that.
Right. But if you can't afford to go do a sound bath, and singing bowls are super expensive. I don't even have one yet, but it's on my wish list.
Yeah.
You can also just go online and find people doing singing bowls. You'll put your headphones on, turn the volume up, and you'll get the same effect from that right from your home for free.
Right.
There's also, I know I'm going to say this word wrong, binaural beats. It's spelled BINAURAL beats, BEATS. And what that is, you have to use headphones when you listen to this, and it'll put one tone in your left ear and another tone in your right ear, and it'll cause a reaction within your brain for certain frequencies. So for instance, 396 hertz is really good for anxiety and guilt and fear and negative thoughts and grief. And then there's other frequencies like 417, for instance, and it's to help work through trauma, clearing destructive thoughts of past events, and it helps with change within yourself. So each frequency has a different...
Sorry, not to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
If you plug this into like Google or YouTube, that sound is available for free, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to fucking try it. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I know the one that you want to do. The one that you want to do was there's 528. I listen to 528 all the time. They call it it's for miracles and transformation. And it really is directly associated with your heart chakra. So I work with that tone quite a bit. It's the frequency of love, pretty much. And then the one that you wanted to try was the one that you can meet your higher self with.
Yes, because we talk about that, and you talk about when you're meeting with when you get in contact, because you're in constant contact with your higher self, how it's tuning into a frequency. And then when you said there was a frequency to meet with your higher self, I was like, hell yeah.
It's 963 hertz, by the way,
in
case you wanted to check into it.
And
then there's other frequencies that are for directly related to pain. So there's the 174 hertz that's specifically for physical pain. So play around with the frequencies, tap into like what it is that you need, and try it.
Yeah, because there's also we're talking about tools to lift your vibration, but there's also frequencies that can make you scared or anxious. I know I know this sounds crazy, and we might have touched base on this before, but when I listen to country, if country comes on, it instantly makes me sad. It just hits the chords, hit my brain. And not all techno music, but a lot of techno music gives me anxiety. And I think it's the frequency.
It could be the frequency.
Yeah. And before I knew about these, I preached this. Like I just knew it in my bones, and people look at me like I'm crazy, which is fine.
Now there's confirmation. You are crazy.
I am crazy. I'm not fun.
But you were right on point with that because and different things that might make me happy might because we're different people.
Yeah.
And you're resonating at a different frequency than I am. And so something that, you know, could make you happy might not make me happy. Same with tones.
Right. Like how I don't know, like chocolate. I don't know. You gotta, there's some people, not you, but like some people, I hope you like chocolate, right?
I do. I like chocolate.
Some people like chocolate and they're,
oh,
that's right. You do make chocolate. Sahdi makes the best chocolates.
Thank you.
Some people don't like chocolates. They're crazy, but not the fun kind like me.
No hate. Don't throw hate.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay if you don't like chocolate.
It's okay, I guess. More for me. Okay, so I want to talk about plants because, of course, I always like incorporate plants. I just ended up repotting all my plants in the house, so I'm on cloud 9. But there are plants that you can have in your room to help release stress. Snake plants, it releases oxygen at night. They're really kind of special that way. I mean, they release oxygen all the time, but they are in hyperdrive at night, so they're nocturnal, which is really cool because if you're sleeping and you're a snorer, like half the people, me included, a snake plant might be good by your bed because it gives you that extra dose of oxygen that you're already needing. Pothos is a huge air purifier. You have more healthy air, more oxygen in your environment, less toxins in your body. You're going to be mentally healthier. An orchid is is scientifically proven to be a stress reliever, and it increases healing, which is huge. I didn't know that about them. I think they're bad for cats, though. I think be careful with your cats and plants. Just know your stuff. I will say, fun fact. My cats will bite the tips of my aloe vera plants to trip balls because in small doses it makes them trip. So little ravers. Anyways, gardenia, I always say this wrong. It's a sleep inducer and it relieves anxiety. Gardenia. I always say that wrong. So a peace lily, which is toxic to animals, and an English ivy, it removes mold from the air. Didn't know that. So if you have anything that's moldy, like fruit, I have a fruit bowl, sometimes moldy. When you touch that fruit, it goes through your air and that messes with your sinuses. It can make you sick. The Boston fern actually removes toxins from the air, which I thought.
What is it?
A Boston fern. A fern. Like, well, I mean, here in Oregon, we have ferns everywhere. This is a set of Boston fern. I haven't looked further into it, but I will.
And what does it do?
It removes toxins from the air. I mean, you get a breath of fresh air out in Oregon, like everything's green. I just always feel like this place is magical. And I don't know if it's the plants, but it's beautiful too. So, and then aloe vera also releases lots of oxygen, which is amazing because we need it.
Oh, another way to raise your vibration is through the food that you eat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about it, everything in the universe has a frequency, including the food that you eat, right? And that's why they say, try to eat healthy. It'll make you feel better. And I know for me, when I've gone on a strict juice diet for a few days and I'm eating fresh vegetables and fresh fruit and nuts and seeds and things like that, I feel amazing. I just don't have the willpower to maintain that for long periods of time. But when I do it, I do feel good. And there's a scientific reason behind that because fruits and vegetables have a vibration. But if you put a fruit or a vegetable into a can, it instantly kills the vibration on that. I found that out.
Gross.
Well, they get gross, but you're still getting the nutritional value and you're still getting the calories. You're just not getting the vibration from them. So the highest vibrational food would be anything that's still alive. So fresh produce.
That makes sense.
Right. And then you're eating that and you're putting that vibration into your body.
Yeah.
Another good one is seeds and nuts like hazelnut, coconut, almond, olives, even sunflower seeds and herbs and spices.
Right. Well, think about all the pictures of goddesses and stuff. And they're always pictured with they're not going to have Taco Bell next to them, but
right.
But I mean, I'm a goddess and I have Taco Bell next to me sometimes, but no, these goddesses, the depictions of them in books and on Egyptian walls, and they always have that fresh fruit next to them. And there's probably a purpose for that,
Exactly.
They're their highest self. That makes complete sense. So what are some foods with the highest vibration?
Like I said, it would the highest vibration actually is essential oils. Those frequencies start anywhere between 52 hertz and as high as 320 hertz.
Dude, that makes sense because
if you think about it, a healthy human body vibrates at about 62 to 80 hertz. And then human colds and flus start at about 60 hertz. Okay. So once you get down to like 60 hertz, you're really susceptible to get sick all the time. And then actual disease starts at 58 hertz. And then you're more receptive to cancer at 42 hertz. Oh, wow. And then death starts at 25.
Dang. You still have a vibration when you die? No.
Well, it's, death begins. Yeah. At 25 hertz. So if you think about it, raising your vibration is not just a thing that we're saying in the spiritual community nowadays. Right. I mean, spiritual healing and vibrations have been going on for centuries, thousands of years. Right. And been practiced. And the food that we eat does matter.
I was looking up because I was like, dude, I want to know my vibration. Like, am I going to get sick? Like, what the hell? And it is scientifically proven, which is amazing because that's magic. It's scientifically proven now because I was looking up, like, how do you find out your frequency? And there's a machine for it. And I was reading out loud. I was like, oh, cool. I want one of those. Yeah. Where do I go for that?
Yeah. But I mean, it's not just the food that you eat. That is a big part of it. But I mean, most of us here in America, and there might be people in India and other places that are listening. But most of us, there's fast food available. There's DoorDash. You can just order any, to-go food at, touch of your fingertips. So, and it's okay to not eat healthy all the time. I'm not saying you have to be like vegan, strict, fruits and vegetables all the time, but you should make that at least 80 to 90% of your diet. And then if you want to have like a splurge day, that's fine. Yeah. But it's not only about the food that you eat, it's your actual vibration, like what you're putting out into the universe. So doing things like the sound bath and raising your vibration in other ways, just being more loving and caring and compassionate raises your vibration as well.
Yeah. If you're feeling low and you're like, man, I'm feeling really low and I have been drinking a lot. I mean, everybody likes to go have a drink every once in a while, but if you're drinking a lot and you're feeling really depressed, first of all, alcohol as a bartender, this is me saying alcohol is a depressant. So that doesn't help, but also it lowers your vibration. So think about doing that, not juice cleanse, but like cleaning your body out, go a long period of time without the alcohol.
And there's so many forms of detox. Like your body could be resonating at a healthy level, but you eat junk food every day. And it's because you're doing different things. You're not watching the news and you're not, gossiping and you're not being, in a low vibrational mindset. And that can increase your physical vibration.
Or surrounding yourself by energy vampires, which, are people that just steal your energy and being around them and letting them drain you. You got to protect your energy and then you can be in a healing place, especially if you're already in a low vibration from, maybe mental health or maybe a trauma. It's important to protect yourself from energy vampires and do the detox and stay away from it.
These are just like so many different ways that you can heal and that you can raise your vibration. It's not just one set way. And it's really hard when you're people that suffer from depression and anxiety and things like that, what they'll do. And I know I've done this before because I have struggled with depression as well, where once my vibration gets so low, I'm craving fast food. I'm craving the friends that suck my energy because they're going to relate with me. They're down there in the ditches too. And so I'll call them to come over and comfort me, or just talk to me. And so it's because my vibration is so low. And then I'm craving unhealthy people. I'm craving unhealthy experiences. I want to go to the bar and have a drink, or drink alcohol, or eat fast food, binge watch Netflix. And those are all of the things that is going to continue to keep you in that low vibrational energy. And that's where depression and anxiety and these emotions come forth.
I know when I'm feeling low, I'll scroll Facebook.
Oh yeah, that's another
or TikTok
one.
Forever. And I literally have the word in my head. It's a compulsion. Because I'm a sucker for my phone. I'm on my phone a lot. And I get that. I acknowledge that. And there's a lot of times where I'm like, if I just put my phone down and let it charge, it feels like I'm missing an arm. But you need to unplug. Like you just do sometimes.
Just want to make it clear that it's okay, like, to have those moments where you can't get out of bed. You feel down. But we want to give you some tools that you can keep in the back of your mind.
So you don't stay there.
Yeah.
Exactly. I always say that. It's okay to be sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay to stay there.
2-3 days tops. Like we're pushing 3 days. Like that's it.
On,
like you need to get up, go get some plants.
Yeah.
Put your headphones on, listen to some frequencies, meditate. Just going outside, try to catch the sunset. Try to catch the sunrise. If you can't catch that, like check out the moon, look at the stars. Like get yourself out of the house and into nature, because nature is a gift, and it will automatically make you feel better.
I know when I was repotting my plants, I was thinking about grounding, because for me, I struggle with seasonal depression. And a lot of that, yes, is the sun. We live in the Pacific Northwest. But I think a bigger part of that is not being able to ground with Mother Earth and the circadian heartbeat. You think of like giving birth and that skin to skin contact and how that saves the baby's life. Well, think about it. You're not connecting with Mother Earth. You're not connecting with that heartbeat because you're bundled up and you're cold and you don't want to go outside and put your feet in the grass or walk the beach when it's cold. And I get that, but it's important if you're feeling down to maybe just go walk through the woods and go outside and touch a damn tree. They call them tree huggers for a reason. You touch that tree, you're connecting.
And if you're crippled with the overwhelming sensation of anxiety and depression, just open your window.
Yeah.
Moon gaze, look at the stars.
Yes.
Open your window, get some fresh air.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes depression and mental illness and mental health makes you feel like you can't
do anything. Your room. Yeah. I think that's why I'm so big about indoor plants, because I'm just like, I have to have some of Mother Earth in here through the months that I can't necessarily go outside, because I'm a baby about the cold. Let's be real. I can't make it to the beach. It's cold.
And then we were also talking about like things that can raise your vibrations, but there's a lot of things that can also lower your vibrations too. Like we were talking about binge watching Netflix. It's okay to watch Netflix. It's okay to have a cheat day where you're just like, I'm going to eat snacks and watch TV.
Yes.
That's fine. But continued and prolonged doing that, it's harmful for you, and it's lowering your vibration and can lead to depression.
I mean, I binge watch shows. A lot of times I'll binge watch shows so I can focus while I'm doing stuff. But then I'll catch myself like sitting on the couch, just watching. When Netflix goes, "Are you still there?" I'm like, don't judge me.
And a lot of times too, we'll have friends that we've known for years, and they're just not healthy for us. Yep. They might not mean to be, but, instead of, calling to see how you are, they'll call you and be like, this is what's going on with me. And you know what I mean? And they'll just like